The countdown just builds up the anticipation.
Yeah. Talking about anticipation, Bob. I was in a ref in a game yesterday, and it was neck and neck game. Came down to the last possession. Davenport, they were down by 2 or 1 or 2, and they had the ball, and they drove baseline. It's been like physical, and there's like some little bumping going on, and the guy fell, and I paused because I'm like, do I call a slight push and have him shoot free throws to win the game or tie the game, or we're letting him play, and I call it travel. And so I pause for a second, and the whole gym just goes eerie quiet. And then I call it travel, and half the place starts booing me, and then half the place starts screaming. Oh my gosh, that was fun, man. I actually enjoyed reffing that last weekend. That was a good time.
Good. Well, that's a good opportunity to experience what it's like when you know you're in a situation that no matter what you do, half of the world is going to hate you. Like that's there's
yeah. You call it one way, the other side's going to be freaking out. Yeah.
Yep. No matter what you do, you're going to be making somebody mad.
Is that what it feels like being a journalist?
Probably. Yeah. A lot of things. I mean, even the average Joe, no matter what they do, it's like you're going to get the world's opinion on it. Like,
yeah.
You know what I mean? No matter what you do in life. Do you want to start a business? Do you want to be an employee? Well, half the people you know are going to tell you that starting a business is risky, and the other half are going to tell you that that's the only way to go. Like it's
that's, and it's even more pronounced now with social media, I feel like, too. Like if you put something out there like I'm going to try to start my own thing. I mean, it's easy for someone to sit behind a screen and say, well, I don't know why you're doing this. There's no point. There's somebody already better than you. You know what I mean? So,
well, that goes right into being a people pleaser. Like, what are you living for? Are you living to make yourself happy? Are you living to make everyone around you happy? Are you living to make the Lord happy? Like what, who are you allowing your actions to be finally held accountable to at the end of the day? Like, is other people's opinions the most important thing? It's like,
Yeah. And I think you hit that on the head pretty good when you said, is it the most important? Because a lot of people, I feel like, and even in some self-help books, it's like you only care about what you think. You don't worry about what other people think at all. Well, I'm not 100% agreement with that. I mean, why should we not worry about anybody else? I mean, that's a super selfish point of view. So, yes, it shouldn't be the most important, but it should be, kind of on your mind, right? I mean, and if that person's opinion, right, if that person's opinion doesn't align with what values and what you're trying to portray to your actions, well, then that's just too bad. Now I'm not worried about them because they make you question, like, am I doing this for real? And you're like, yeah, okay, yeah, I am. Then it's like, okay, we can proceed. I'm not worried about what you say because I'm committed to what I'm doing here.
Yeah, and it's a good opportunity to get different range of perspectives on different decisions that you're going to make as well. It's like, obviously, if you got a big choice in life coming up, you're going to talk to a lot of people that you trust and get their opinion on it, and then you're going to take step back and look at what they all said, and it's not all going to jive, and you're going to kind of analyze and pick and choose, and what, obviously you're going to take your course of action no matter what, but having that input is a good thing for your thought process.
Yeah. And I think a big thing with that is, knowing who you are and what you're about, what values are you 100% true to, which is hard to do. Because you want to please everybody, but you can't please everybody and be true to yourself.
That's why I think it's important. Like, I think keeping your values simple is what helps keep them top of mind. And when you're making decisions, if you try to get all complex and stuff like that, it's really easy for things to get off the rails when you're stressed out, or when you're faced with a big decision that's giving you anxiety at the time. But if you keep it simple, like God, country, family, like something basic like that, you can use that as a really quick filter when you're stressed out or whatever it is that, you got to make quick decisions.
Yeah, I for school we did personal development. We teach the 7 habits of highly effective people. That's part of our practices. And during this training I did, you have to write a personal mission statement. And their idea was, well, you can start really broad, but then they have you filter it down. I got mine within a couple sentences, because I'm early. But and they've made the example of Stephen Covey, the guy that wrote it. He had his down to 3 words. That's like filter it down to the most important, truest values you can have, and I think that helps with clarity also, and making decisions so much easier than having all these things you have to live up by, and some of them conflict. Yeah, it's tough to do.
Right. What grade is that you guys are doing that?
We do it K through 12, I believe. I mean, I know we do it all the way through the middle school, but
that's freaking awesome. That's a good book.
Yeah. There's a lot of good stuff in it. I don't practice all of the stuff. When I read it last summer, and I was like, okay, if I'm going to teach this, I got to at least know a little bit what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I just think it's some good stuff. Part of the curriculum.
Yeah.
I don't remember anything about, but granted, I went to different, between public and private small schools. I definitely don't remember much about personal development or anything like that in school,
Yeah, I think it's necessary now for SEL, social emotional learning. But it's hard though, because it's hard to get you imagine yourself at 12 years old trying to, listen to this stuff about regulating emotions and stuff. I mean, they're not for it. But
and all you can think about is the freaking tree fort that you're working on at your whatever.
Yeah.
Or,
and the girl sitting across the table from you. Yeah. Yeah. It's tough for them. I'm sure, at least they're hearing it and they're getting exposed to it. I've had some really good conversations. There's some stuff in there, how can you change your community? What would you do differently? And just putting that picture in their mind of oh, I could change this community. I think it's huge.
That's powerful. Yeah.
Yeah. Hopefully.
Mindset's pretty much everything.
Yeah, for sure.
You've heard the phrase, life's all about perspective.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And we talk about perspective a lot on here, actually.
Mm-hmm. What goes in one ear and out the other is important.
Yeah. Yeah. We talked about, your brain being a filter for what you hear. And that's the same thing we were talking about at the beginning, It comes in, it's is it a conflict of interest with who I am? That's just you filtering it out.
Does it align with your core values?
Yeah. Yeah. I'm with you, for sure. Well, what was the other thing you had? USAID?
Yeah, kind of DOGE and USAID and all that kind of stuff. Have you been tracking what's going on with that?
I have been looking at DOGE a bit. Yes. Because it's wild. It's crazy.
It's definitely, it's unprecedented in our lifetime.
And I don't remember what I seen. But I mean, the one that the funniest one is $250,000 a month on K cups.
Yeah,
it's what? There's no way. And there's and they oh yeah, 80% of these people work from home. But we're spending $200,000. To me, it's so obvious in the corruption that.
Yeah. If I had to just break it down, simply put, what has been exposed that our money, taxpayer dollars, has been spent on, it's treasonous, right? It's a direct assault on the American people, who many are working themselves to death to try and advance their families' well-being and their communities and their neighborhoods. You know what I mean? Just just to just to succeed at a base level anymore these days with inflation, the cost of everything. It takes everything for a family to,
Yeah.
it's hard work. And to just blatantly disregard all that effort that gets put into this thing that makes us a country, I think it's treasonous.
Well, and it's not like these guys are scraping by.
Right.
The guys that are saving, like you're making a comfortable living.
Oh yeah.
You're doing this to be up there with the bigwigs.
Mm-hmm.
To be up there in that world up there, and it's like, so you're gonna make these guys more poor. And what I wrote down when you were speaking there, I said it's stolen, and it comes back to this country was built on Christian values,
Mm-hmm.
and stealing. This is what's been happening the last 10. They're just stealing money.
Yeah.
It's crazy. And
That's really a
I don't
really good
know.
way to put it, because it is theft. When you tell the American taxpayer, or even state by state, take California's big rail project, for example, literally billions of dollars have been stolen from those taxpayers because it was said to be going towards this project that, take the moral equivalence out of the project itself. Whether you think the rail project was good or bad or needed or not doesn't matter. What matters is that it was voted on and approved, and then that billions of dollars that was taken from the taxpayers was used for nothing. It was just stolen.
Yeah, and it's like, and I heard that when I started, I haven't finished that podcast yet with Weinstein yet, but I mean, they're like, yeah, they had budgeted this in, they had took the tax money, and then they're just holding it. They haven't even done anything yet. They're just holding the money.
Yeah, we call that a scam or a fraud.
Exactly. I mean, that's like the internet, site that's just put in your social security number in your back of your credit card. It's like, what? This is happening at a federal level?
Yeah, wait, our government does this to us?
Yeah. And it's like, for how long? I mean, how far does this date back?
Right. Long time. I mean, my understanding is that it's essentially USAID, which is a psyop in its own, just the name. They want you to think that it's USAID when it's not. It's the Agency for International Development, right? It's not necessarily supposed to be aid. We sell it like it is, like we're just sending money to these poor, impoverished countries that need our help, but it's all for political leverage and control in these areas. So what the CIA used to do in, causing coups in foreign countries so that we could put Western aligned leadership into every country in the world, right? People that were aligned with the United States' values and our decision-making processes. We wanted those leaders to be the ones in power all over. The CIA used to do that until I think there was a commission that happened 60s or 70s, something like that, that kind of stripped a lot of that power away from the CIA. And then shortly over time after that, USAID gets kind of squeezed out, and now they're just leveraging all these NGOs to accomplish the same thing that the CIA used to do, but no longer could because Congress shut them down. So this is like the workaround of how we leverage the entire world's politics with money, and influence. There's so many different styles of corruption going on in it too. Like, so you take that, for example, that we are manipulating the whole world politically at that level. And then also stateside, like domestically, they're influencing everything in the last decade with it. Take Black Lives Matter, for instance. Where did that money come from? Us, taxpayers, USAID. Like, there's just millions of dollars being pumped into things like that, starting riots, things like that. The media apparatus, all of the media companies that have been exposed as collecting millions of dollars from the government to speak on behalf of the government. It's like they're showing us exactly how during COVID and all of this, we knew, okay, the media is an arm of the government or a propaganda machine at this point. Now they're showing us why or how it happened. Here's the money trail. Here's how that was bought and paid for.
Yeah, here's the accountability to the actions of what just happened versus what was being said. Yeah. And I want to bring this back to the USAID from the beginning. I wrote down one word at the very beginning. It said deception. What does the devil? I mean, this is where I come into. This is evil. I think this is Satan at work.
Right.
Because to me, the deception piece of this, like, I mean, if you think you're smarter than the devil, you're wrong, right? To the point of putting USAID and having AID be an acronym, right? But like. Right. That is so deceiving that to me, it's evil, right? This is Satan at work here. This is Satan at work for sure, in my mind.
I agree, and a little side caveat off of that I just kind of thought of. It's like, I think it's important to think of Satan or the devil, whatever you want to call it, in the same way that you have to think of like the kingdom of God, right? Look at the inverse of that. What do principalities of darkness do? They leverage human beings. Just like God's kingdom uses human beings for good, human beings are leveraged for evil purposes in the kingdom of darkness. So the same potential that's in 100 human beings, whether good or bad, just their intelligence, their work ethic, their ability to manipulate the world around them, all of that is just being harnessed, whether it's for good or for evil. You know what I mean? So there's a lot of strength and intelligence and stuff like that that's working towards evil ends.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's one of the themes I've seen in the Bible is that God works through humans. Yep. Like and I've never thought of, evil and the devil in
the same kind of way.
That way.
Yeah.
I've never thought of it that way, but I mean, how else could you? And you know what I mean?
Right.
Like, with how many times in the Bible does God actually like show up without working through somebody? Right. In every story he's working, he has chosen somebody to lead, and he leads side by side with them.
Yeah.
And counsels them. But
even the times that come to mind when God does show up physically, like the 10 Commandments on the mountain and stuff like that, he shows up to one person and then works with that person and tells that person to go down and spread the news, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and even I think of like in Exodus when he opens the Red Sea and then closes it, and like the flood. I mean, but he's got his guy, the guy that he wants to lead, who he thinks is going to be true, and takes him along. Works through him to restore and rebuild, and yeah. So I think that's a great way to look at. I guess the war within.
It's really easy.
Spiritual warfare.
Yeah, it's really easy to look at the evil side of the coin and just remove the human element from it entirely. For some reason, whatever reason that is, we don't naturally think of it that way. But with the Lord's kingdom, we kind of just automatically associate it with that. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't tell you why that is, but it's definitely something I've experienced myself.
Yeah. And it's tough. I love the spiritual warfare thought and debate that goes on with it of, because a lot of people are quick to blame. Like there's like, it's kind of this like spiritual warfare all in or all out sort of deal going on. Like it's either you blame everything on the devil and nothing's ever your fault, or there is no actual devil. It's just God works for a reason. So it's like it's a tough place because he's clearly there, but I mean you can choose everything, right? You can't blame your problems on the devil. right? If you believe in God, God's working through you, but these are also challenges you got to deal with yourself.
100%. And it's one of the things that God was very clear on, by allowing us to screw up so much, is not removing our agency. Like, we as human beings have agency. And while, yes, we can be influenced good and bad by the Lord and the devil, you know what I mean? You can't just eliminate your agency from the equation and say, oh, it's all Satan's fault, or, we got to take ownership for our actions.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I'm on the side of the coin that's like, I can pretty much choose, and I have a hand in every situation that is, happening in my life, every relationship, right? I can choose to please this person, but if I do, like, it's gonna hurt somebody else, or it's gonna hurt who I am. So, yeah, I'm one of the people that, and I kind of see this a lot, especially with the younger people that are just don't have a lot of years of experience yet. They quick to blame somebody else, man. We lost because of them. We not a lot of guys saying, hey, my bad, I'll take that one. I had a bad game, or whatever the situation is, And I try to remind my students of this. Is like, you're accountable for yourself, and I sometimes this hurts me, and I don't know if I should probably say this on the air, but I'm going to anyways. As I've told students, I can't help somebody that doesn't want to be helped. I can't help you if you don't want to be helped.
Yeah.
But don't blame me if you ain't getting better. You know what I mean? Like, I can't help you if you don't want to be helped, but if you're not getting better, that's going to be the result if you don't want to try.
Ownership is hard. Physically, mentally, emotionally, taking ownership is hard, and it takes strength in a human to do it. But the benefits in your life are undeniable. That when you do take ownership, what's possible is the sky's the limit, right?
Mm-hmm.
So how do you? And that's
100% agree.
That's the tough job of a teacher these days. Like, how do you sell that to students of all ages? You know what I mean? How do you get across the concept to them that, yes, it's going to be hard and painful, but you still have to do it? Like, that's anybody's development. How do you convince them of that?
And it's so hard, because they don't want to listen, right? You're kind of at that, where I'm at, you're at that junior high age of, well, also nothing aligns with what they want, because they got all these hormones going crazy, and it's just like, they don't know what they want, but they think they kind of do. They want what's right in front of them that day. But yeah, it's tough, especially in today's dopamine filled world of instant gratification. Yeah, like, what they want changes from day to day. And
our internal clocks have been cranked up to 9,000. You know what I mean? And you want everything right now.
Yeah, and it's like, it's almost expected. Like, it's like they expect to just have it instantly. It's like, huh? And when they don't, it's just like, done.
Right.
Because you're so used to and so trained that if I want something, I get it. That when that doesn't happen, it's huge. It hurts them much more than it hurts me when I don't get what I want, because I'm not in that cycle.
Yeah. Well, and the other thing I was going to ask you too about, you brought up war with Iran. What are your thoughts on that? What did you see about that?
We are, what are we at, 30 trillion in debt?
For our deficit, yeah.
Yeah. I think we should take some time to focus on us, to get ourselves in order.
Yeah, a little housekeeping.
Let's take care of the home front here. I mean, we got an open border and protests going on for that, and we got money that's flying out of our ears.
Mm-hmm.
Let's deal with that before we get too hasty on just throwing troops and money at a different war.
I couldn't agree
And I
more.
get, like we've talked about, it's profitable. I get it. It's a quick way to make some money. I don't know. Let's deal with what we have. I think Elon's got a good plan to put money back in our pockets. I say we sit here and save some lives for a while. I don't know. Maybe I'm looking at it from a weird perspective, but I don't want any more people to die. I really don't like war. I'm heavy against war.
I agree. And I think that it's a example of the rot and the greed and the corruption that's gone on in our government for too long, that it's even, that we're even looking to go to war right now, because what that tells you is they're completely ignoring the needs of the American people, which we are all operating, or we used to, or the ideal version of America is that the government is operating with the best interest of its citizens at mind. And these are all just blatant slaps in the face that say, we are not doing that. We are operating with our own best interest in mind. Because going to war when we have, like you said, all these issues stateside between the border. I mean, look at the lack of a response to North Carolina after it was devastated by a natural disaster, right? But we can instantaneously round up tens of billions of dollars at a time to send to Ukraine, right? But our own U.S. citizens who are living with their homes, their power grid, their communication, their communities completely destroyed. FEMA has a $700 check for them one time, and that's what we can do to help our citizens. Come on now, right? Tell me you're not in this for yourself in a better way than that.
Yeah. I mean, we've been given, some of those things that DOGE has come up with. I mean, it's like $100 million a month for transgender education.
Yeah.
Well, how about we help save some lives of the American people and restore what they just lost?
Right.
I don't know. That's why I'm saying focus on what we got going. We got enough problems here.
Yeah.
On our own territory. I think that we are, frankly, kind of weak at the moment. We're kind of beat up and spread out. And we talked about this before with empires being too spread out.
Mm-hmm.
And that's typically when they fall. And that's nerve-wracking because I can't imagine different country at the top of the food chain. I don't know what that would look like.
Well, the world looks 100%, different for sure, with somebody else at the steering ship or the steering wheel of the whole world.
I mean, it even looks different now, just with the shift of power, even just within the United States.
Yeah,
I kind of feel like the perspective of the country has shifted.
Yeah,
people are noticing that we've become too soft for the progressive movement, and we need to kind of flip. We need to toughen ourselves up. We need to refocus on discipline and being true to values and honesty and simple things that you think are happening that haven't been happening.
The boat is turning for sure, and that's. I think that we are. Also something I've thought about in the last couple of weeks. Like, we do need to stay vigilant to make sure that we're not swinging the pendulum too far in the opposite direction. You know what I mean, right? But I think if we as a society can just figure out what our values are again and focus on those, I think everything will be fine, right? Like if you get, we finally get the momentum going in the right direction, and we as a society are moving away from the things that have been degrading our integrity over time, and we start to move back to things that strengthen our integrity as a nation over time. Part of that is understanding what our Christian values were that built this country, and saying, okay, those got us through a lot of hard times, a lot of growth. They kept us on the right path. Let's double down on the right things and then I don't really worry as much about the pendulum swinging too far. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And I just hope that the Trump administration does what they said they're going to.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? If you say you're going to do something, at least give it your best shot and don't slough anything underneath the table. And I've had a conversation with a couple people. It's like, I don't trust those guys for 1 second. All these multi-billionaires in there, and I'm like, I get it.
Yeah.
Over the last, living throughout the last 10 years, if you're paying attention, I don't trust anybody either.
Yeah.
So I 100% get why you don't trust nobody. I do, but I also look at, if you are really if you really don't have that much trust in anybody, who do you think is going to do the best job? Because that's what we got.
Right. Well, you got to have somebody doing the job.
Yeah, it can't just go away.
Right.
So, yeah. But yeah, I just hope if you say something, do it. Let's make that a norm.
Yeah.
Make that a normal. You say something and you do it.
I agree.
Yeah.
And I mean, as of right now, it seems like the action is, or the rubber's meeting the road. We'll see how it plays out over time, I guess. I'm pretty shocked or impressed, whatever you want to call it, that they've even gotten some of their nominations through, like RFK Jr., Tulsi Gabbard. A lot of these people, to me, what I've seen of them are really great human beings who have our United States citizens' best interest in mind. You know what I mean? So that, to me, it seems like we've got a lot of great people in power that have the ideals that we've been lacking in our government now in place. So it's just a matter of seeing whether they can execute or not.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm curious. I think some stuff's going to shake in the next 2 years.
For sure.
Because, how quickly things have gotten rolling. I think that the administration understands how they have 4 years. There's no second term. We got to make everything happen, and I love that they're working on that timeline. Let's get some stuff done, man.
Well, yeah, and the fact that he's already been the president one time and he can't run again. Granted, obviously, the political machine that is the Republican side of the House is still going to be kind of game planning long term. Like, okay, 2028, do we want Vance to sit in that seat? And so there is some posturing that's going to happen within this administration in that regard. But for the most part, Trump, knowing he can't run again, he's kind of like, this is the last shot, so he can swing a lot harder than most presidents normally would.
Mm-hmm.
So it will be
interesting. Which I think is a great mindset to have, though. Even if you're,
sometimes you got to burn the boat.
Man, let's do it. I'm for it. I'm all about change, man. Let's get after it. But